This is 5 on 20 News, where the news is boss, but this newscaster's bossier. I'm Alex Kack. It's 5 p.m. on Monday, February 27th, and I'm coming to you live from the Creative Tucson studio in downtown Tucson. First, let's talk the local headlines. Raytheon has announced the winners of their annual Raytheon Leaders in Education. The missile manufacturer partnered with nonprofit group Tucson Values Teachers to honor Pima County K-12 teachers and schools for their contributions in shaping the minds of the youth in our region. Of the 50 applicants, Jessica Howell of Hendricks Elementary in the Flowing Wells District, Lauren Marlett of Coronado K-8 and Amphitheater, and Stephen Ueda of Sunnyside High in the Sunnyside District took the honors. Each winner will receive $2,500 for themselves and another $2,500 for their schools. The other 47 applicants are expected to take turns giving each other detention. It's Mardi Gras tomorrow, and Tucson is getting in on the party. Venues across town will be taking advantage of this widely accepted excuse to get drunk in the middle of the week, including Sazerac Creole Kitchen and Cocktails. They'll be hosting a marching band at St. Philip's Plaza at 4340 North Campbell Avenue today and tomorrow at around 5 p.m. If you feel like dancing, head on down to Club Congress tomorrow at 5 for Mardi Gras Carnival, an event that promises to combine the best elements of Fat Tuesday and Brazilian Carnival traditions. There will be plenty of beads, face painters, samba dancers, DJs, live music, and Arizona's largest king cake. Head to hotelcongress.com for more information. And if you want to get started a little earlier, the parish will be serving up Cajun food and drink specials starting at 3 p.m. Their event will also feature live music, and Chef Travis Peters will smoke a whole alligator. You can find out more at theparishtucson.com and tune into 5 on 20 on Wednesday to hear if Chef Peters was able to clear the chamber in one take. The Arizona House approved legislation that would ban taking photos of speeding drivers and cameras at red lights. House Bill 2525 was approved last Thursday with a 32-28 vote. It mostly stayed on party lines, with all but one Democrat opposed to the bill, and all Republicans except for 3 supporting it. Democrats say that the camera technology saves lives and were supported by the Traffic Safety Coalition, who said that the legislation would make Arizona roads more dangerous. Will Humble of the Arizona Public Health Association pointed to data showing that Mesa, Phoenix, and Paradise Valley all showed reductions in crashes since the cameras were put into effect. Republicans, however, claims that it violates privacy rights and it does not allow witnesses to be confronted. Representative Travis Grantham introduced the bill that banned cameras on state highways. It was built off of a bill that was passed last year. And the Arizona legislature last week debated a bill that would require local governments to give aid to federal immigration agents or face penalties. House Bill 2121 was introduced by Republican Bob Thorpe. It forces counties and municipalities to allow immigration officers to interview inmates, receive detainees' incarceration status, along with their release dates. The law would also hold local law enforcement responsible if a detainee is released and then injures someone. HB 2121 was passed in the House last week and is now waiting for a formal voice vote before it moves on to the Senate. Republicans, such as Representative Kelly Townsend of Mesa, say that the bill will help restore the rule of immigration that she feels was lost during the Obama years. But Democrats like Representative Isaiah Blanc of Tempe say that the legislation hurts communities and separates families. The bill comes a week after the new sheriff, Paul Pinzone, removed a policy that kept detainees locked up for 2 days while ICE determined their immigration status. Pinzone has shortened the time period to just 10 hours before an inmate is released. And newly released footage from police body cam shows a recent Tucson protest that shows some officers acting aggressively towards protesters. The video shows officers using pepper spray on protesters and knocking an elderly woman to the ground. David Archuleta, a protester, called the police's behavior brutality and oppression. The protest was held on Thursday, February 16th, in solidarity with A Day Without Immigrants. a nationwide protest that saw immigrants striking for the day. Lupe, an immigrant rights group, organized the protest, which drew about 100 people and resulted in 2 arrests. Investigators for TPD are looking into what caused the breakdown between law enforcement and the protesters. And Chief Chris Magnus says that he will investigate any and all complaints that are filed with the department. If you were at the protest and you want to see justice served, please contact TPD to register a complaint. And I wanted to go ahead and take a moment to talk about the program that you're watching right now. Here at 5 on 20, we're undertaking a new kind of citizen journalism. We're going to give you the news as we see it, and we want more people to speak up with us. We need writers, hosts, anchors, camera people, sound people, really the whole gamut. The times require a new way of informing ourselves, so join us. Do it, and do it now. You can email us at info@creativetucson.org to get involved. And if you think there's a story we're missing, a person we should interview, an upcoming event we should cover, or have any news tips for us, shoot an email to info@creativetucson.org. We're here for you, and we want to cover all stories from all points of view, so don't be strangers. And now in national and international news. The courts may have blocked Trump's Muslim travel ban, but that hasn't stopped U.S. immigration authorities from overstepping their bounds. French historian and preeminent Holocaust scholar Henri Rousseau was detained for more than 10 hours last week. Rousseau was scheduled to give a keynote address at a conference organized by the Hagler Institute of Advanced Study at Texas A&M on Friday. But he ran into some xenophobic turbulence at the customs desk after landing at the George Bush Intercontinental Airport. Customs and Border Protection officers informed this dangerous-looking bad hombre that he was in violation of immigration law for entering the country with a tourist visa, even though he was being paid for his participation in the conference. As it turns out, foreign academics aren't required to get a work visa for speaking engagements, and you would think that somebody working in immigration would know a little something about immigration law. But in Trump's America, the only training Customs and Border Patrol receive is just a few hours of playing Tower Defense 5 and a PowerPoint presentation on how to refill the ink for the denied stamp. Conference organizers got in touch with immigration lawyers when Rousseau failed to meet the driver at the airport. The lawyers explained some easily Googleable facts to the officers, and Rousseau was released. Despite the complications, Rousseau was able to give his keynote address as planned on Friday. The news comes 2 days after our insult comic-in-chief decided that it was France's turn to be taken down a peg. President Trump spent a portion of his CPAC speech on Friday criticizing Paris, which he says is not safe, according to his friend, Jim. This was mere minutes after Trump laid into the media for using anonymous stories on their reporting. Millions tuned in yesterday for one of America's favorite annual events. Of course, I'm talking about the 59th running of the Daytona 500. But since nothing exciting actually happened there, except maybe a couple hundred left turns and a few 200-mile-per-hour car crashes, I guess I'll just take this time to talk about the Oscars. The 89th Academy Awards ceremony took place at the Dolby Theater in Hollywood. Many celebrities took the opportunity to show their support for the ACLU by wearing blue ribbons at the event, including Casey Affleck, Ruth Negga, Lin-Manuel Miranda, and his mother. Hometown hero La La Land took the honors for production design, cinematography, original score, original song, directing, and actress in a leading role. And due to a mix-up with the envelopes, they also believed they had taken the prize for Best Picture. Producers for the film were mid-acceptance speech before the error was corrected and the true winner, Moonlight, was announced. The indie favorite was also able to scoop up awards for Best Supporting Actor and Best Adapted Screenplay. And Democrats missed an opportunity to turn over a new leaf on Saturday when they selected Tom Perez as the new Democratic National Committee chair. Perez served as President Obama's labor secretary and had the support of the usual Democratic Party suspects, including Hillary Clinton and most of Obama's former administrative staff. These are the same people who backed Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the former chair who was forced to resign after WikiLeaks released evidence of her favoring the Clinton campaign during the 2016 primaries. Many on the more progressive end of the spectrum hoped that Bernie-backed candidate Keith Ellison would get the nod as a way of uniting the party. Ellison is a representative from Minnesota, and he made history when he became the first Muslim elected to the federal government. Ellison is only slightly more progressive than Perez on paper, but after being an early favorite for the position, was only to be usurped by the establishment pick late in the race. It's no wonder that Ellison supporters feel slighted by the decision. None can argue the fact that the party is in need of an overhaul following the thorough shellacking they received from Republican candidates up and down the ballot in November. But the powers that be chose instead to stay the course. After winning the vote, Perez announced he wanted to make Ellison the new face of the Democratic Party and appointed Ellison as deputy chair of the committee. And Trump's feud with the media continues. After shutting reporters from the New York Times, BuzzFeed, CNN, the Los Angeles Times, Politico, BBC, the Huffington Post, and others from a press briefing on Friday, Trump took to Twitter to announce that he would not be attending the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The dinner has been a D.C. tradition since 1921 as a night where press and politicians set aside their differences and enjoy each other's company. In the early 1980s, the dinners began to take on more of a comedic tone, becoming something of a roast of the standing president and his administration. Obviously, our thin-skinned snowflake-in-chief is too sensitive for some light ribbing, so he'll likely spend the evening at Mar-a-Lago, or at the very least on Twitter, caps-locking fake news to whoever will listen. 15 presidents have attended the event at least once. The last president to skip the event was Ronald Reagan in 1981, but that was only because he had been shot just weeks prior. Even still, Reagan managed to call in from the hospital. Some are now calling for Alec Baldwin to take Trump's spot at the event, but I think we're all getting a little ahead of ourselves. The White House Correspondents' Dinner isn't until the end of April, and Trump will have plenty of opportunities to get himself impeached by then. Personally, I'm looking forward to President Pence calling out Paul Ryan for looking like Eddie Munster. And President Trump will be addressing Congress and the world through primetime television tomorrow night. The speech will be similar to the State of the Union address, but new presidents are averse to calling it that. 5 weeks and change isn't enough time for the new president to fully understand what the State of the Union is, even for presidents with a firm grasp on the English language. According to Sean Spicer, the theme of the address will be the renewal of the American spirit, a string of words that could mean just about anything. For all we know, Trump will be talking about a drunken gas station run he made once when he ran out of cigarettes down in Mar-a-Lago. Trump is expected to mention an infrastructure package and his tax reform plan, both of which will require congressional action. Knowing Trump, he'll probably just bounce around his usual talking points before making an offensive remark that he won't apologize for. Trump will likely close the address by deflecting questions from congressional critics on both sides of the aisle before heading up to his room to put on a bathrobe and watch Fox News to see how well he did. And you've probably heard about Republicans not having the time to attend local town halls, to actually listen to their constituents. But they did, however, find time in their busy schedules to meet with campaign donors. The Center for Media and Democracy and The Intercept obtained a series of fundraiser invitations for a number of GOP lawmakers who skipped out on the town halls and decided to do like Woodward and Bernstein and follow the money. Speaker of the House Paul Ryan canceled the town hall in Janesville, located in his home state of Wisconsin. But you could forgive Ryan because he had a busy weekend. He first met at the Winter Pack Retreat in Miami, which welcomed donors who gave a minimum contribution of $10,000 to the Team Ryan Joint Fundraising Committee. Ryan also toured Texas and California, hosting events for his PAC in Corpus Christi, Fort Worth, Dallas, Houston, and Menlo Park. In Wyoming, Senator John Barrasso skipped out on a town hall invitation by going skiing with a bunch of billionaires. He attended a ski resort fundraiser on Friday and Saturday in Jackson Hole, where he asked donors to give him $5,000 for each PAC and $1,500 for each individual. There's nothing like a donor shakedown on the slopes. Arkansas Senator John Bozeman had an even better idea. After canceling a town hall After seeing fellow Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton get owned by a 7-year-old named Toby, Bozeman bravely canceled his own town hall, and instead he set up another fundraiser, which was held today and required a $500 donation in order to speak with Bozeman. If things go well, Bozeman's looking to set up more extreme town halls where attendees will pay $1,000 per question, or half price if the question involves banning abortions. Over 200 Republicans skipped requests from their constituents to attend local town halls to discuss issues such as the repeal of the Affordable Care Act, which seemed to shock Republicans that people are upset about losing their health insurance. The American media was up in arms over the weekend after learning that various media outlets were not allowed to attend a press conference by Press Secretary Sean Spicer. The New York Times, the BBC, The Guardian, and CNN were just a few who were not allowed to pass through the velvet vortex into Spicer's alternate reality. But one exception was CBS News, who got to attend. So it might not have surprised anybody when CBS chairman Les Moonves told investors recently that he's, quote, looking forward to not having as much regulation and having the ability to do more. By doing more, he means putting America into a collective stupor with new episodes of The Big Bang Theory and Kevin Can Wait. Moonves is especially happy about Trump's pick to lead the FCC, Ajit Pai, who Moonves called very beneficial to his business. Pai comes into office at a time when large media conglomerates are seeking to further swallow any competitors by controlling a huge share of local television stations. Currently, the FCC limits the amount of stations that can be owned to 39% of all U.S. households. Republicans are looking to change FCC rules to increase that number to 49%. They're also seeking an end to net neutrality, which keeps large media companies from controlling broadband speeds. In the past, Pai has expressed pro-business views and seems to be open to the idea of eliminating net neutrality. Moonves, who's helped Trump to get as much free publicity as he could during the campaign, said Trump might be, quote, may not be good for America, but he is damn good for CBS. You could pretty much swap out CBS for any big corporation, and you'd be equally correct. And while our president has been trying to convince us that Sweden is a dystopian nightmare full of rapist refugees, he seems to have not been paying attention to what's happening in Germany. On Sunday, Germany's interior minister released a report showing that there had been more than 3,500 attacks against refugees in 2016. This amounts to about 10 attacks per day against refugees. The attacks have injured at least 560 people, and including 43 children. The interior minister said, quote, people who have fled their home country to seek protection have the right to expect safe shelter. He pointed out one incident where a neo-Nazi burned down a sports hall that housed refugees and caused damage worth $3.7 million. He was later sentenced to 8 years in prison. In another example, a crowd cheered as an asylum shelter went up in flames in the former communist east side of the country. In both 2015 and 2016, there were over 900 attacks on refugees, which was a sharp rise from 2014 when there were only 199 attacks. Germany has been at the epicenter of the refugee crisis as Chancellor Angela Merkel opened the country's doors to refugees from the Middle East and Africa. However, the number of refugees entering the country dropped to 280,000 last year, mostly due to an EU deal with Turkey, who agreed to take on a sizable amount of refugees. This was Alex Kack for 5 on 20 News. Next up is 5 on 20's Sean Madrid gives us his segment, Also Tucson.
Today on Also Tucson, I'll be showing you a short film, or advertisement rather. It's from a series of videos created by Chevrolet in the 1950s to market their cars. There were several videos that made up the roads to romance, as if buying a Chevrolet and traveling across the country would cause you to fall in love. Actually, that just might work. When I first saw the roads to romance, the Santa Cruz Trail, and the land of the great, or giant cactus, I was immediately overwhelmed by a deep desire to experience Tucson in the 1950s. This could be nothing other than nostalgia. Now I find myself analyzing this video to death, like when it refers to San Javier as a magnificent shrine, blissfully unaware of the missionary efforts of Father Kino, or how it describes old Tucson, old Tucson, like before the fire, as an exact replica of the real old Tucson, like the Presidio or something. And I just know that can't be right. But at least the video ends on a high note when it covers the Carrillo Elementary procession that happens every day, or every year, to this very year. It's on Christmas, around Christmas time. It's the Posada. One of the prevailing opinions of Tucson's beauty found in this video is that Tucson is a blending place of many cultures. Enjoy.
Lazy days, warm and free, pathways to climb, rivers to see. Magic's here for you and me as we travel the roads to romance.
Like 2.5 minutes.
Sun and sand, sagebrush and tumbleweed, rolling mountains and giant cactus. This is the old Santa Cruz Trail, running from Santa Cruz in Old Mexico to Tucson. Here the Tumacacori National Monument stands, preserving the ruins of Tumacacori Mission. Another mission, San Javier del Bac, stands on a slight hill facing south across the Santa Cruz Valley. Work on this magnificent shrine was started in the early 1700s. Not far from busy Tucson, an exact replica of old Tucson has been built as a motion picture location. Children of the Carrillo School in Tucson re-emphasize that the Santa Cruz Valley is the blending place of many cultures. This is a Mexican Christmas festival. When the pageantry of the festival is done, there is candy for all who scramble for it. You and your family can enjoy the vacation thrills of this spot, and no matter where you live, you can reach it quickly, comfortably, and with utmost economy. Travel this year the roads to romance, to places you have always wanted to go. And when you travel, go in one of the quality motor cars your Chevrolet dealer has to offer. It will be your magic carpet that will carry you to the land of your heart's desire.